Hi, I'm Sarri. I'm a psychotherapist, and I write and teach on the subject of boundaries. In this conversation, you'll hear from Irina, a somatic coach in Israel. She has spent 5 months taking my online class for coaches and therapists on boundaries. She had some profound insights on the topic of personal boundaries and self-care and how it translates for her in Israel. Take a listen.
First of all, I told you that the word boundary in Hebrew
Yes.
calls for many charged emotions. First of all, there's no name for boundary. It's always, it's the same, it's the equivalent word as in English, frontier, like from country to country. How do you call it? It's
Oh, okay. So the boundary between countries. So it's
yes. How do you call it in English?
the border.
Border. Yeah, right. So in Hebrew, there's only one word for all, which is border.
And what's the word?
Gvul.
Gavul. And
Yeah.
So it's not really boundaries.
There is no word that is in use.
I love this. Well, this is so important for me to learn.
Yes. So actually, this is why when I talk to people here, they're really, when I talk to them about Gvul, you see that they're shut off, especially in Israel, because all this problem with the, how do you call it? I forgot the word. The border. It's always about the border. Where is the border? The 67 years, the 67 border, it's always border is something which has to do with conflict in Hebrew only. The only association that border comes with is political and also negative. Also, for example, in families, then you're talking about borders that a parent has to set border. Again, the same word, linguistically, like it's the same word, using everything. So we say to set a border to children, okay? So what I wanted to tell is that I felt that I cannot break the how even I can start. And a few weeks ago, I just went into, I was Googling Gvul in Hebrew, and I found some very good articles in Hebrew by psychoanalysts and psychologists, and they say the word border has a very bad reputation, but that is so important. And then there are those articles, but they are only for professionals.
Wow.
These are amazing articles. That these are people that, of course, they understand the depth of it. So this is interesting that I have this language barrier for like putting it through.
That's so interesting. I'm learning so much hearing this. And so it's making me wonder if, well, they have the words yes and no.
Yes.
And yes. So that would be how to talk about this work, right? So it would be to talk about yes and no and self-care.
Yes. There is no equivalent to self-care in Hebrew at all. At all.
You wouldn't think I was Jewish at this point.
Talking about Judaism and the Polish mothers and Jewish mothers, no word for self-care at all. And what I'm trying to say is that really I had a linguistic education. Like I finished Hebrew University in linguistics and musicology. So,
oh my gosh. So linguistics is big for you.
Yes, it's big for me. So when I'm saying there is no equivalent, it's after I went and checked and looked for translations, and I really do work, and I did
You're
not
in
stop.
the field of linguistics. That's like your study. Yeah, so you
Yes.
know. So when you look up these things, you're saying to me, Sarri, this isn't just somebody like guessing. This is a professional that understands linguistics from your standpoint, Irina. And you're saying to me, there's no word for self-care. There's no word for boundaries. There's no word for these things in Hebrew.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
No, this must have been very challenging for you. So how do you, but yet you understand the concepts
Yes.
and
Yes.
you understand the ideas, but that is so interesting that there's no word for it.
Yes, and also in the army, I was my job was translating. That was what I did in my service. So, and later I translated a lot in many different languages, to French, to Russian, to English. So it's like when I'm saying there is no word, it does not mean that in some kinds of psychological books I will not read about it, or I will not find something which is similar.
Right.
When I'm saying in the language of people.
Right, which is that's where I work from. It's just ordinary people. I don't, that's what it's about, is just ordinary people. And in the language of communicating to ordinary people, there's no word.
Yes. So in linguistics, we say that every culture, like Eskimos, yes, they have 40 words for different kinds of snow.
Okay.
So we know that every culture, its language mirrors set of mind. Yes?
Yes.
So it's huge to find out. So I would say, as a linguist, I would say, wow, I'm here on something. If I was in the university, I would write an article about this.
Wow. That's
actually, I have a friend who is very good translator from Portuguese, Spanish, and Arabic. He knows also very well. And actually, I intend to talk with him about it.
Great.
And say, what does he say? Because he will understand the subtleties, the nuances of this thing. But isn't it amazing that we don't have self-care, non-existent? You would say having fun.
Yeah, and that's so different than what it actually means.
Yes, if I translate it per word, it means it is as though I am a car. It's like taking care of a car. Like
yeah, again,
it doesn't.
Good translation. Wow. So on one hand, it says a lot about what does it mean for the culture of a people who can't talk about boundaries without talking about conflict over borders, because boundaries, the whole point of understanding boundaries is there is a way to define them and a way to work through and communicate to reduce conflict over time if we could understand each other's boundaries. But if you can't even talk about them, then how in the world can you begin to reduce conflict? So this all, is a light bulb moment for me around why it's so hard to reduce conflict if we don't have even the language for the possibility of talking about a boundary without the word conflict, without conflict attached and without it being attached to a border. So, because our boundaries, sometimes we don't want a border there. Sometimes we want it to be open and flexible. And so that's very interesting. And the other interesting thing is, what does it say for people that don't have access to the word or the meaning of self-care, when we know that it is part of all healing? It's like your strongest medicine for health. And we need that language. We need some way to come up with the words for that, because it is so connected to medicine and health and well-being, right? And it's not about just going and having fun. It's about your wellness. It's about your immune system.
Yes.
It connects to your relationships. It connects to all these things. And so that's very interesting too. Thanks for tuning in. You can find more on boundaries on my website, sarrigilman.com. My book, Transform Your Boundaries, is on Amazon.